and welcome to LinkedIn Water Cooler Talk. Thank you all for joining me by the virtual water cooler once more on this Friday. My name is Rita Risha. I am the podcast host for this show and founder of Reignite Media, where we work with you to help make your content dreams come true. And when I am not doing that, I also have another podcast called Bippity Boppity Business, where I help business leaders infuse the magic of storytelling and wonder into their work, a la Disney style. But we're neither here to talk about any of those things today. I bring up the podcasting world because my two very special guests have a lot to do with podcasting, and they're here to tell us all about what they're doing and how they feel about podcasting as a whole, and the community and the content behind it and all that jazz. So I have Deedee and Survy from Clever.fm here. They will introduce themselves momentarily. First, I'd like to bring up Deedee to the virtual water cooler. Deedee, hello.
Hi, Rita. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do. And a fun fact about you, if you have it. No stress.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Deedee, as my name says. I am head of product and co-founder at Clever FM. And a fun fact about me, oh my gosh, I don't even know. My dogs are my favorite thing right now. So I have two fluffy little dogs, and then my cat would be remiss if I didn't mention her. So I have a zoo in my house.
That's amazing. Great. And I will bring up your partner in business crime, Survy. Hello, Survy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Nice to be here, Rita. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming on. Give us a little bit about yourself and what you do and a fun fact about you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Clever FM, and we're building a platform to allow podcast hosts to have community and engage with their community and listeners and everything. Fun fact, I love escape rooms, mystery rooms, escape rooms. Yeah, I love doing them. I've done probably, 15 of them. They're super fun.
What's the coolest one you've ever done?
There's one in Oakland in the Bay Area called Trivium. Free plug for Trivium escape rooms. They were some of the most well built out escape rooms. In fact, Deedee, when we met, I don't know if you remember, we did an escape room together as part of your interview.
That's so funny, really.
It was fun. I was gonna say, my fun fact is I've never done a real escape room, only digital escape rooms. I guess I'm afraid in the real world.
That's so part of an interview, you did an escape room. I need to know more about this. What's the idea behind that?
It was like a low-key interview. It was, we were trying to figure out how it is to work with each other and how we deal with high-stress situations and communication and all that stuff. And we did a virtual escape room with Gather Town. It's like Escape or something. I forget what it was called.
Pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah. It's probably, I do like that idea of a light way of figuring out if you can work well under pressure or stress without it feeling like, no, tell me, can you handle this? And you're like, good cop, bad copping somebody in a situation. That's funny. Well, awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started with the first question I always ask everybody on LinkedIn Water Cooler Talk. What are you grateful for today? Deedee, I will start with you.
Thank you. Lately I've been very grateful for communication technology. I know that sounds so cheesy, but I have friends and family in different places. My partner travels a lot for work, and just being able to keep in touch with people who are not physically present with me, including my team here at Clever, and the opportunity that gives me has been really top of mind for me, especially with all the news around social and how bad things can get. There's a positive side to that I've been really grateful for lately.
I can speak to that. I really feel like I wouldn't be able to do anything of what I do without the technology and the tools that we have today. I'm over here in Jacksonville, Florida, and you're both in very different places from me right now.
It's true.
And we're all just here on a casual call together. Survy, what are you grateful for today?
Yeah, I think on my end, definitely feeling grateful for the team we have at Clever FM. It's been a busy 2 to 3 months, but it's, working with Deedee, other members of our team. They're all passionate, super smart, getting to work with them is like a privilege, and I'm grateful that we all get to work together and build something of use and of value together.
Absolutely. That's so exciting. What's something as you guys worked together in the last week that you've learned that's new and you're both really excited about? I'll start with you,
Yeah.
Deedee, or Survy, whoever.
Okay, sorry. I was just taking.
Go for it.
Very excited.
I just got back from a 2-week vacation. So hanging out with family and celebrating Diwali, which is the Indian festival of lights. So went back to India. It was after 2 years that I got to do that because it's been COVID times and travel has been restricted. And I was like kind of feeling a little bit guilty in the beginning of like, I'm going to take some time off. And, of course, it's like always busy time working at a startup. So
Yes.
feeling a little bit guilty about it, but decided to actually, take time off, properly take time off, spend time with family. And I learned something interesting about myself, which is like, I came back with a lot more energy and a lot more enthusiasm about what we're doing, like more clarity of thought, even when I did get back this week. So
that's amazing.
Glad I took a break.
Sometimes we need a little bit of inspiration and separation from the work that we do to feel recharged and creatively energized again. What about you, Deedee?
Yeah, thanks. I actually, not to make a plug for community, which is what we are here to talk about, but I am part of a community called Women in Product. And last week we had a group gathering and we really talked a lot about imposter syndrome and really finding yourself and establishing your brand. And in that meeting, every single one of us were like, yeah, we have imposter syndrome. And it was kind of this weird, like, how can we all be imposters? We can't all be imposters.
Are you the real one? Are you the real one? Who's real here?
Exactly. So it was really like eye-opening. I know you see a lot about it, but to have people whom I have like really grown to respect and share a lot of time with, share their experience with me, gave me some sort of confidence that, hey, I'm not alone in this. And my own fears are, mirrored back to me and other people. And I even left that group thinking like, even this meeting, I felt like I just said stuff. And then after, a few women were like, I can't believe that you, of all people, like you in this group, everyone was saying, you're always the one talking and giving advice and mentoring. And I couldn't believe. And I was like, what? Me? No, like you just kind
and
of
you're like, oh,
place.
stop it. You stop it. Oh, thank you. It's just like a big
go
love
on.
fest. But like also talk to me. I need it. Thank you. Like that's actually so funny because it's part of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast, LinkedIn Water Cooler Talk. So I wanted to hop on LinkedIn Live and find really awesome people connecting and active in whatever space it is in podcasting or LinkedIn to get, myself out of my own little hole or bubble, right? Because when we work on our own, we can get so sucked into the daily grind of our jobs. And working remote, I was like, well, where are my friends to, have a little cup of coffee with and like chat by for a couple seconds by the water cooler. So that's why I'm really happy that you're both here. To dive more into that idea of community and why it's important, with podcasting, I really feel it's such a powerful tool for that. I feel like podcasters have an ability to really grow and keep a community for a long time because of the medium, how intimate it is to the listener and both guests as well. Why do you think podcasting is such a powerful tool in media today? And how do you think that's going to change and affect community 2023 and beyond? Go ahead, whoever wants to start. Survey?
Yeah, go for it, Deedee. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think like you mentioned, podcasting is this very sort of intimate format where, as a listener, you might be doing one other thing like driving or, working out or cooking or something, cleaning. But at the same time, you still have this person literally in your ears telling you something.
Like right here.
Right. And in that way, it is very different, right? It is a hands-free medium for communication. It has its issues, which we are trying to address at Clever FM. We're like, it's right now it's a unidirectional medium, essentially. The host talks and the guest talks, but everyone else is only listening. We're trying to build the other side of that, like the community engagement and getting to talk to your listener side of things. But overall, like I think podcasting is old. It's actually, been been a thing for like 17 or 18 years. But very recently, especially like with Google's transcription services and OpenAI working on Whisper, their open source like transcription models that are really good. Is podcasting going to get that mainstream adoption where search engines can actually search through the transcripts of what people are talking about, surface relevant sections of a podcast, just like a website or a web page is surfaced today on Google. So I'm personally excited about just sort of that component of it on the technology side, how it's going to be more searchable, indexable, and I think that's going to help podcasts just get more popularity or increase in popularity and be discoverable.
Yeah, I love your idea on the solution for this because I see it. I see like I like LinkedIn for podcasting. There's some ways that where I can interact with people on here, but when it comes to the traditional form of podcasting in itself, with not being live streamed, there is that disconnect of like, how do I get them over to my community, or how do I engage, or how do I get the questions to help make the content more immersive and engaging with everybody. So what are your thoughts on this as well, Deedee?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Survy and you have said. I think, the word intimate is interesting because to be a podcaster, you really actually have to have like a level up from other mediums to create a really authentic connection, right? Like human nature, we see a face we relate to, we see, we hear these things, etc. But there's a lot of things with memory and senses and stuff that are tied to what you hear. And it's just really interesting to know, like, to feel like you actually know a person on a level that you can't really get from any other medium.
Yes.
And that real authenticity is what I think creates a loyalty that is unique to podcast medium. So, other spaces have great fandoms, of course. But there's a true actual like connection there, and a passion between listener and host that I haven't seen mirrored in any other space. So that's really exciting. It's exciting to watch people be able to come into their own and create and be able to build kind of how they want, where they want. But I think in 2023, a lot of technology is going to help propel things. We're seeing some really interesting trends in like kids podcasting and what's happening in that space. Which, we're keeping our eye on, creating safe communities for, fans of all sizes.
I love that.
Yeah. So, I just think it's a really interesting medium. And I think that it's a really special way of really getting to know someone more interpersonally, even though you might not actually know them, than you can have in any other medium.
Absolutely. And I think it's a great transition into really why maybe you guys are doing what you're doing with Clever. Like, can you speak to more about what the platform is and what inspired the creation of it?
Yeah. Deedee's story on like her journey of being introduced to Clever FM and like becoming a co-founder is very exciting. So I'll let her talk about it.
Okay, Deedee, let's hear it.
No pressure. No, so I am more on the listener side. I listen to podcasts. I am definitely a consumer, and I listen to podcasts primarily for the purpose of learning. That's kind of my jam. I was listening to a podcast called Strong Towns, plug for Strong Towns for sure. And I was listening to them talk about building safe communities, for which I have kind of another side project that I work on. And I really got super passionate about what I was hearing. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, who was on the other side of this? And like, where's everyone else who was listening? And I literally was like sitting right here looking out this window and thinking, who else is listening to this? And I tried to find people. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, locally where I am, this topic is not, there's not a big community. So I'm like, great, there's podcasts that are, that transcend locality. And so I thought, great, this is a great way to do it. But then it was a dead end for me in terms of creating a community and a connection. And so I started looking into that, and that's how I found Clever. And I was like, yay, someone's doing this. And I applied, I met up with Survy, and my passion for it has only grown. So, that's kind of why I got into it, was wanting to create a space where the Deedees can connect with the other Deedees in this space that have shared passion and shared interest around any topic, really.
Tell us more on your perspective of this survey of the creation of the podcasting community and like the software and the execution behind it. I mean, it's no easy feat to be competitive in the market with a product or service like this. So I'd love to hear your story and journey behind it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a podcast listener for many years, 2015, 2014, or sometime then, and I was just kind of excited about podcasting in general, being able to like learn on the go through podcasting, and was playing around with many different ideas. So the first iteration of Clever FM a couple of years ago at this point was like, how do we extract the data out of podcasts, right? How do we get all the links to the books and the articles and the names of the guests without someone like manually putting them in?
Right.
Or how do we make that accessible to the listener so that they can go beyond just the listening, right? Not exactly focused on community at that point, but that's where we ended up through the process of iteration. So the first product was like for what we called second brainers, essentially this like group of people that are very meticulous about extracting information, documenting it so they can always go back and refer to it, right? And
Okay.
I was maybe on the spectrum there for being like meticulous in that way. And it was like we built a podcasting app that where you could listen to podcasts and also take a note or like save a clip, get the transcription for it, and all that stuff. From there, we sort of iterated into what if this app could help with the community side of things, because we were talking to hosts and we learned from them that they don't get any feedback from their listeners, right? It's so hard to get a listener to go to a Google form and answer a poll, or please like click on the link in my show notes and help me out, right? I want to hear from you. So what if it was like built into the podcasting app itself, right? Where you listen to the podcast.
Right.
And we recently pivoted away from that part as well, after we learned that it's just tough to kind of change people's behaviors in terms of like their listening preferences.
Yes.
So if people are listening on the Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever they're used to listen to podcasts, it's hard to pull them away from that and like teach them how to use a completely new podcasting app, even if it has a few more features on the community side. So then again, kind of going back to the drawing board, this is like maybe 4 months ago, what Deedee and I really figured that we care about is the community side of things. Like, how do we get the listeners to talk to each other, to talk to the host, so that podcasting as a whole is more sustainable for the hosts, listeners get more value out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought process led to the platform as it exists today, which is a web platform, a community space where the hosts are asking questions, participating in discussions, doing polls. Folks can record voice messages that can be then featured or given a shout out on the podcast episode itself. And all of this like content that gets created can also be sort of repurposed and distributed out on social media. So it's not really in competition with social media that exists, but more of a way to supplement content.
And this is gonna sound like a silly question, but like, did you program all this? Like, are you the brains behind this like whole thing?
We're all the brains behind it.
Everyone is the brains. Like, it blows my mind. I'm asking because it's
We're-
cool. I'm like, how?
We're a collective brain.
Yes. Yeah.
One big unit.
Yeah.
I developed a lot of the the code alongside the team that we have, and I'm excited about that and working with Deedee on the product side, and Deedee can do a fair bit of damage on the on the technical side as well. So
what makes this such a passion project for each of you? Like what where do you see this going in the future?
Yeah, I think like to add to what Survy was saying, we just had a call like just recently with the host, and the light in his eyes, honestly, like I know that sounds so like cheesy, but working with hosts and seeing them self-empower is really, really rewarding. And that kind of keeps that going for me, where, one of our biggest learnings as we've gone along is like there are a lot of tools out there, social media, there are a lot of ways to actually like find an audience, but there's not a natural, like you don't come born with all of the things you need to know to do community management. And a lot of times it can feel really overwhelming, and it can feel like you can't possibly fit this in. And as we've worked with our hosts to kind of show there's a much more of a push-pull relationship between your community than you might have thought. Your community feeds your content feeds your community, and you create this relationship. Watching these hosts kind of like have this aha moment of, oh my gosh, I can have both. I can have that connection that made me start this podcast in the first place, and I can still do my podcast at the same time, has been really rewarding. And being able to have them sort of like learn alongside the growth of the platform has been really, really cool.
What's been one of the more interesting things that you've discovered as you've been working on the product that you weren't expecting to see or hear or experience from the process?
A little bit of that. I'll take this on Survey. A little bit of that same thing, honestly. Like It's been kind of, because it's funny. We went to podcast movement, and you meet podcast people, and they're vibrant. It's such a bright spot, and people are so excited and want to talk and everything. And then it would come to like, oh, but okay, now set up this community and like set up these discussions. And it was just, what?
You're right? Like, oh no, we have to work more. We already do so much work.
Yeah, there's a little bit of some fear, I think, is what it is, right? It's a fear of the unknown. And I think that's been really interesting to help remove that roadblock in their own minds. But it also was a surprise to us. There was a little bit of like, oh, you got like, you're creating content all day, every day. Like, you know what you're doing, right? But it doesn't always translate. Right. And that extra help that we can give to like boost confidence in those areas and then start to see traction in that space, I think has been great.
Yeah. I think to add to what Deedee was saying, like previously we were building just the tools to do community building, right? Community management. It was like, here, you can go to our website and create a poll or create your page and add a discussion there. But really what we realized recently is supporting podcast hosts and their teams in building community. So like giving them prompts of like, hey, this has been working for other podcast hosts. So you can, use a similar prompt or talk about community.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk about community in this way. First, identify what your community is actually looking for. Don't just create a community for the sake of creating community. If you're not meeting a certain purpose, it's going to fizzle out. Folks are going to very quickly realize there isn't value here, right? So go in with the intention of adding value to the listeners. And then giving them prompts and supporting them through the community building process, because it is a skill.
Is there a community that you've seen kind of already very successful from using the tool? And what community is it? What's the niche of that content? Are you open to sharing that if that's there?
Yeah. Sure.
Oh yeah, we're seeing trends in like mental health spaces and things where maybe social media isn't the safest place for that dialogue to happen. Or perhaps there's some distrust of those platforms. And so their communities are kind of like saying, hey, we're out of here, like, closing down my Twitter, right. That kind of stuff is happening real time. And so we're seeing a lot of success in those spaces where people are looking for a spot where they can join just this community and it's not tied to other aspects of their life in both mental and physical health. We've heard a lot about some of the platforms sort of stifling conversation through moderation tools, for right or wrong, that's not the fit for their community. And so we're definitely seeing probably the most, I wouldn't say exodus, because again, it's in concert with social media.
Yes.
But the most kind of like positive relationship between in that genre right now.
Wow. I mean, that makes sense to me, I think, because it could be probably a bummer to be posting content regarding mental health and trying to genuinely want to help people. And then somebody posts a comment like expressing a thought or idea or vulnerability. And then some internet troll goes, go cry about it. Go, you know what I mean? Like some jerk comment. So yeah, a private community also, I think, gives space for it could potentially encourage more vulnerable communication as well too, because of what you just said. So you probably would get, I'm guessing here, but you might get more candid and viable data and feedback from your audience in that way than maybe you would on a Facebook group or anywhere else online.
Yeah, I think in spaces where psychological safety is a primary goal of that audience, whether in a community or in whatever interaction, it's great. There are obviously just like there's, fun conversation in those things too, right? Like there's just kind of up and down. There's posts with political discussion. It's the same thing, right? Like you want to be able to feel like you're in a safe space and to be authentically yourself, because that's what you get out of the medium in the first place. And that's just proven hard to do in some social networks for some of these accounts. And so just kind of making that relationship between the two spaces has been really, really great for our hosts.
I think what you both are creating together is really awesome. And it seems like the dynamic is so strong. How do you guys work so well together as a team? Like, what are your team building like tips?
Yeah. I'm glad you say that. Like, I feel that too. It's definitely fun to work with Deedee here. I think it would go back to some of our values that we set up for Clever FM. So one of them being like over communicate and give the other person the benefit of the doubt. So in Slack or in meetings or in whatever communication we have, even via email, we're always going that extra step of like having discussion in this is very tactical, but like having a discussion in public channels versus in private channels, right? Private DMs. Being respectful over recapping the notes from a meeting and posting them in a public channel, or very clearly laying out what the priorities for the week, the day, the hour are, especially as we're working super fast. We don't want to waste cycles confused about like what the actual goal is. So just making sure we're aligned on the priorities, right? With over communication would be something. Another one that comes to mind is like strong opinions loosely held, and this is like very close and dear to my heart.
Strong opinions loosely held. Is that what you said? Interesting.
Yes. So essentially the value that we have gathered together a team of really smart and passionate people who have a diverse set of experiences. And I just saw a question from Tanner.
Yes,
sorry, I got distracted for a second.
Okay.
Hey, Tanner. We'll answer that in a second.
Yes.
Hey,
Tanner. The idea that give everyone a chance to express their opinions and thoughts, and then put egos aside to help the company make a decision or make a decision in the company's interest and move forward, right? And then reevaluate, oh, was this the right decision or not? But you're not blaming a single person. As a team, you came up with a particular decision and decided to move forward. So I think that it's a good way to utilize everyone's experiences, especially since hopefully you hired people who have something to offer to the company. So
yeah, so I got two values out of that. I got over communicating, like erring on the side of over communication, and then okay. Oh my gosh, I messed up the second one. Strong opinions loosely held. Is that what it was?
Yes.
I feel like I really like let that one out with all my power. Is there any more?
We haven't like listed them out concretely, but there are. I think being curious is another one that kind of goes hand in hand with like giving coworkers benefit of the doubt, right? We're not trying to get each other. We're not trying to like sort of take or prove each other wrong. We're trying to build on each other, right? And being curious helps not only like everyone learn. We're all here to progress in some way in our careers, in our what we know and our knowledge. So yeah, that would be another one. Any other ones, Deedee, that I'm like just blanking on right now because we haven't written them down completely.
No worries. It's funny. One of the things that I actually like about what you're saying is that we haven't like done some exercise to try to be like, what's our culture? Because culture is what it is. Like you can write down everything you want, but it's going to be what it's going to be. And I think there are some things that are concrete that come through, and we say like, okay, for example, I can't even count the number. I'd be rich if I could count a dime for every time Survey said like, you know what, I really like, I think this, but I don't feel strongly enough about this for, XYZ outcome. So it gives the team the power to say, to understand the difference between like, okay, this is something that I really need to like reflect on. And this is like, okay, this person feels something about this. I'm going to research this a little more, et cetera. But you know what you're working with, and that's really valuable. I think the onboarding was like unmatched for me. It was very weird. I don't know if it's because we're remote first, so you have to be a little bit more careful, but the process was, very well documented. This is how we do Slack. At first I was like, wait, everything in the public forum, like what's that going to be like? And I love it.
Yeah.
Yes,
So do you feel
because
like it's been kind of like survey you, like your ideas, your thoughts on how to run a business, and then as you've brought other team members on, they've either echoed in agreement that your ideas or values of that, and it's kind of shaped its way, or maybe looked at you and been like, I don't know how I feel about this, and then it kind of, you guys all work together to reshape how that works, and how that fleshes out in your own micro community of what you do at Clever.
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of both. I think so. Regarding to Slack or communication, my previous companies, we like did things a certain way, and they worked really, really well, and it scaled from I joined the company when it was like 5 people. It scaled up to like 70 people. So I kind of wanted to bring some of those learnings over to Clever as well. And then, I can recount so many times where we have changed up a process because it's not working for this particular team. The most recently, like we're 4 people right now. It's not like a crazy big team, right? We were previously using ClickUp to do all of our, engineering and all tasks combined, right? But the overhead of using ClickUp for a 4-person team was actually a lot more than what we needed for prioritization. So we said like, nah, screw that. Like, let's just use
Can
Slack.
I just
we'll
talk
just
to you and figure it out?
we'll just make a list on Slack of like, here are the week's priorities, and it's available to everyone. We don't have to go find the list and the sub list and the view in ClickUp and like figure things out. We'll just and the interesting thing is like, I think everyone on the team is open to reevaluating something that's not working, right? So we kind of all collectively came together and said, and I think retrospectives is something we do. So that really helps create the space for talking about things that are working, we should continue doing, and things that are not working, we should change.
The retrospectives are a really valuable tool. And like when I, talking about onboarding, the interesting thing for me was I had all this documentation, everything was great. But then the first thing I was asked is, does this jive? Was there anything you've done in a previous role or job that worked better that you could introduce? And then we ask those kind of questions again in our retrospectives. Like they don't have to we do them for projects and stuff, sure, but also just like this company is ours collectively. What do we want it to be, and what do we want to make out of it? And having that collaboration, I think, sparks a lot of different ideas, and we are all just comfortable in the unknown and in the discomfort of trying to figure it out together as we're going. But that look back, I think, makes a really big difference.
So would it be fair if we, to answer Tana's question, that it came from communication, collaboration, and trial and error is how you all came up with the shared values that you practice and test every day?
I would say that's a great summary, Rita. Yeah.
And really asking each other, like, there's a lot of just open dialogue, and Survey is a great example of this, as our CEO and our leader. And just like when something happens, it's like, hey, have you talked to X person about that? Like just kind of really fostering that open communication and creating, like, really reinforcing those relationships and empowerment.
Well, I think this is actually a nice way to tie in. Thank you, Tanya, for your question, by the way. To another idea that I have, which is strong communities require a certain kind of value or value system in order for them to exist and thrive, right? So I feel like in a way, if you are to do that for the technology that you're providing people, hopefully internally you have a strong community slash culture that's being built as
Yeah.
well to emulate or reflect that. And what you're building with the platform, how are you echoing this idea, if you are, of values or sharing that in the kind of conversations or prompts that you're encouraging hosts to use?
I think it's understanding our common goal and all being aligned together, and understanding, like, when that shifts, those kind of things are critical that everybody's aware of, right? We do have the advantage of being small enough that it's easy to get everyone together and say, oh crap, we totally thought this was going to happen, but nope, that's not what happened at all. This is a pivot. What do you guys think? And get everyone's feedback. But I've worked at larger companies, and you don't have to lose that. It looks a little different, and it's important to keep that going and to keep that central to your identity. But it all kind of comes back to, just like with understanding why in your podcast or why in your community, why does your coworker want to be here? What value are they getting out of it? What does your direct report need from you? And asking those kind of questions is the same kind of thing that helps build community in other places.
It's just the tenets of the psychology of human relationship and people and connection building, really. Like, if you're able to understand those things, I think they can translate in podcasting, in business culture, in community. Like, if you're able to inspire and ignite that connection and keep a conversation going, then it's gonna do well, I think. What do you think about that, Survey?
Yeah, I think kind of also adding to what Deedee was saying. So from a product perspective, right? Deedee, also our like resident community manager, the way she's guiding the design and the guiding the product is, the first thing you see when you enter a community is like a welcome video from the host, right? And that is purposefully put there to orient the person visiting the community. It's like, what is this about? What am I expected to do? What am I expected to get out of the community? It's very like front and center. And after that, you get to engage with the discussions and the polls and whatnot. So the community's values could be different than the values of Clever FM. We're not like trying to align with that, but they are clear as to like what is the values of the community, especially in the mental health space and the physical health space, right? It provides the rules and regulations and the guidelines for how to engage with the community. And yeah, we make sure like that's super clear upfront.
That's so interesting. Was there any, I'm just curious, and I'm not trying to throw you off when I ask this question, but did you guys do any research about like statistics or psychology of what it takes for a human to like want to be joined to a community? I know in general, like there is a human need for that. We are searching for that and aching for that in whatever role we're in, even if we're not podcasters, right?
Yeah.
Tell me if you dug into that or what you learned, if you did.
Yeah, 100%. We do a lot of research on that, right? There's a lot of like correlation between marketing and promotion and community and all that kind of stuff. Our methodologies really align closely with like goal-based theories, right? Around like, somebody has something to get out of this. Let's uncover what it is. The interesting thing about having a platform that serves multiple communities, which Survey was alluding to, is the real power is when we can unlock that with the host, when the host can start to like figure what that is for their audience and start to say, okay, I'm understanding by asking them and by engaging with them and by finding what my competitors are doing, and whether podcasting or not, inside and outside of the podcasting space, what are people who are talking about your topic saying and doing, and understanding that psychology. That's been the real power, is to actually have them unlock what motivates that specific group of people is very different, right? But the overarching theme of we all want to belong, we all want psychological safety, We all want to be able to find like-minded people who we can connect with. That stuff is like it's definitely heavily researched, and all of our platform ideas and UX and stuff is sort of related to that. I think we just lost you, Rita. Oh, there you are. Okay, great. She's sneaky.
I just wanted you to have the stage for a moment. You know, you were really going off, and I felt like I didn't deserve
Thank
to be
you.
there. I'm just kidding.
Oh, not true, not true. But sorry, did I answer your question?
No, you did. That was amazing. Do you have any other insight to add on to that, Survy?
No, I think that's a really good summary of sort of how we're approaching the community aspect of our platform, right? Yeah.
So I think that's a great segue into, you know, we've talked about the culture of what you guys are creating internally, what you hope to create with the community as well with podcasting and Clever.fm, how you work well as a team together to align and, you know, get your goals out there and achieve them. And something that I wanted to take a moment to talk on further was strategy wise on LinkedIn, specifically with podcasting. What has been your strategy there, and what have you found success with, if any at all?
Yeah, so kind of like we've been saying, there's a direct relationship between social media, LinkedIn, you know, other things. I kind of liken it to, you know, if your community is your house party, like you don't sit in your house with your invites and like wonder where everyone is, right? And LinkedIn and these places can be very effective invite tools. They can be these places to actually like find new friends and to find people who we want to actually bring into your network. And so there's absolutely a connection there that can't be overlooked, and I think often is by other community platforms. LinkedIn specifically, really great place for a niche audience. If you have a business podcast, or if you have a podcast where you're trying to upskill, or you're trying to create a place where people who are making moves in their careers, or trying to get over guilt of taking a trip, right? All this kind of dialogue is already happening. So tap into that, use that to your advantage, and you can pull those people into your community, into listening into your podcast. So there's definitely an absolute advantage to taking stock of where your audience is, LinkedIn and otherwise, to get them to actually come to your party.
Survey, do you want to add anything else to that social media party? Any
Yeah.
party favor advice bits that you bring to the table? I'm gonna
Yeah.
stop with this metaphor. It's getting really
No,
crazy.
your back in the background is perfect.
I mean, LinkedIn for me personally, like I wouldn't say I'm like super active on LinkedIn, but I found my first job through LinkedIn. I found Deedee through LinkedIn. In fact, I'm pretty sure like Deedee found you, Rita, through LinkedIn, like through
Yeah, we all got
some-
linked on the LinkedIn.
yeah. So I mean, just those examples itself are like proof that, you know, yeah, there is value in the network via LinkedIn. Maybe another aspect of that I've been sort of thinking about more recently is from a mental health perspective, right? Sometimes I get stuck in the loop of comparing our journey to other people who post on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
And feeling like slightly down about like, oh my God, this other startup raised X millions of dollars, or, you know, like look at the success that they've gotten, which I'm happy about, but also, you know, you kind of get in a comparison mode. And so just reminding yourself, like, it is at the same time also an echo chamber. So like keep your mental health, or be aware of your mental health and like how it's affecting you. And maybe one of the things that's encouraging is like, especially on LinkedIn, I've actually seen sometimes folks post, here are the things I'm struggling with from a business perspective, right? Or I would like help on X, Y, and Z because I'm reaching out to my network and I know people out here can help me with it. So I'm encouraged by that aspect of LinkedIn as well. Yeah, that's what I would say for that.
I like that a lot. And I also do think that there is a positive for the community side as well, of a private community where you are, you know, you're posting out there, you're doing your thing, but then you're spending time with the people that you really want to and need to on the other end as well. It's all a balance, I think.
Yeah.
And it's never going to be 100% perfect, but I think having that option there is just as important. Someone has left us a comment. Laura, thank you, Laura, for your comment. You said, "What's the best way to take stock like that?" I'm trying to remember at what point of the conversation one of you said, "I take stock." Does anyone remember? Because if
Oh
not,
my
Laura,
gosh.
please feel free to clarify and add more. We would love to answer your question regarding your topic. If you're still watching, go ahead and comment and give us a little more context, and we'll definitely be able to answer. Just want to make sure you feel seen and heard. So, if
I
you're
think Yeah, I think it was when I was talking about social, and I have to give a call out. This is my best friend. She's so sweet. Hi, Laura.
hi,
That's you.
Laura.
I think we were talking about social and really understanding like what your correct, like what the networks are that are going to be the most effective for you, and to like understand what your community actually needs. And so, what we always recommend our hosts, and hopefully I'm answering this, but what we always recommend for our hosts is like, yeah, go out and see what some of your find communities that are talking about what you're talking about. And podcasts are great, but also don't be limited to what other podcasters are doing in your space. Find out what other creators in your space. Heck, like if there's a comic book strip that you follow, like, and it's on about mental health, see what their people are talking about. Really just getting to know that person who is interested in that, and then being able to bring that back to your podcast and try things and test stuff and say, okay, I learned over here that, I'll tell you an example that a mentor of mine gave me. She talked about, let's talk about sauce, like not even podcasting, right? Let's talk about ketchup and let's talk about sriracha. When you think about those, which one has like a near cult following? It's not ketchup. Like, right?
True.
There are things they're the same thing. They're used for a lot of the same things, but something that sriracha community is doing. You get people showing up to restaurants with their own bottle, right? Investigate that and start to think about like how your brand can kind of emulate some of that sort of following. So hopefully that answered that question.
Find the sriracha of your brand. I need
Yes.
a spicy community T-shirt now. Is what I need with a hot
Yes.
tamale on it. You heard it here
Yeah.
first. So if you get a T-shirt that says "Spicy Community" and it says Clever FM, I need one now. I'm on the first person on the list.
From Rita.
From me.
Yep.
I will endorse.
Yeah,
I am a sriracha fan. So there you go. And that proves the point further. Yeah, I guess, but to be serious, what you're saying makes sense, because when we are trying to understand who our community is and how we grow said community, only focusing on what that community likes, enjoys, and consumes in the podcasting space may not give you the creative juices and insight that you need to have that full, complete picture, because there are other components of that community that you could be missing on, like a lot of in-person events actually, and I'm very excited for more in-person events to be rolling back in and kicking back in swing as they are, because it's the best way to figure out what a community is all about. When you walk into one of those conferences of whatever topic it is, like 10 minutes of being in a room like that, you're like, I understand the vibe and what I need to be doing here.
Yeah.
Are you guys excited to be doing potentially things in person soon? Do you have any plans as a company for that, or at all, at conferences or what maybe?
Yeah, actually, next week we went through the TechStars Accelerator in the spring semester, and so they have a conference called FounderCon, which is happening in the Bay Area next week. So Dee is going to come over, and we're going to visit the conference together. But we I think have been meeting up for like at least 2 to 3 days a month, every month since Deedee started, to work in person, and it is like you can tell the difference. Like I'm a big fan of also working in person. It's just that we have built a remote first team and we're making it work. But I do enjoy that working in person camaraderie that is built. So yeah.
Do you think that the community app would encourage something of that nature for in person as well too eventually, or is that a thing right now? Yeah.
Absolutely. And in fact, we were just speaking with one of our hosts, and he's talked about how he's done this, and it's a fun place to be. It's like hey, meet me on Saturday morning for this, but when it's Wednesday at 3 p.m. and you have a burning question, or you really need to get something off your chest, or you really want to talk about a specific thing, I don't want to wait till Saturday, right? So it's the beauty of both worlds. And we absolutely will, explore that. But it really comes down to what the communities are telling us they need. And right now we're seeing good progress with the digital first space. But yeah, absolutely, there's a lot of opportunity to wed those two ideals.
So I think this is a really great moment to just kind of recap everything that we've chatted about. It's almost been an hour. We've talked a lot about both of you, the work that you're doing, Clever.fm, and how the community is changing. What are something that you guys are looking forward to iterating on in the product or growing it into that just in the next week you're excited about?
Yeah, go ahead, Survy.
Yeah, I think what we have on the docket for next week is on the customer acquisition side. So trying out new ways of getting the word out and getting the next wave of hosts to build their community on Clever FM.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of testing right now, just a lot of things to help understand where the most immediate needs are. And so, within the next week, we've been, running some different approaches, and we're starting to see what's working, what's not working. And that's exciting for us because we're here for the hosts. We're not just building this because, it is a good time, but there is a purpose. So, exploring further and deeper into the host needs is what I am here for this day and every week after that.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to digging more into the app myself. I have only taken a look at it at a service level, but after this conversation, hopefully those you listening like me want to go take a look and see what it's all about. Are there any ways that you may be open to connecting with anyone that has questions or wants to be involved with the creation of the app? Give us your spin and take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You right now can go to our website, clever.fm, and sign up for your own community, take a look. You can schedule a call to talk to us. We have a really heavy focus right now on giving you both the tools and some strategic work to help you get your community going. So you get more time with me, which, come on, that sounds great.
More party time with Deedee.
More party time. So yeah, I would love to talk about what your community needs are and how we can help you grow both your audience and the connection that you're really looking for.
Survey, is that a Deedee? Is that a ditto from you?
No, that's perfect. And then if you're just excited to see what Clever FM is doing, we have a demo page where you can play around with all of the community stuff that community features and stuff we have. So it's just cleverfm/demo. It's also on the website, so you can find it.
This is a very important conversation because while that we are podcasting as a podcaster, I can spend all day creating content. I can spend all day pushing things out into the world. But if no one is engaging with my content, then what am I doing? If you are listening to this, if you are creating content, you are spending hours and hours and hours and hours posting clips to micro clips of your full length conversation to all platforms everywhere, and you're only getting a couple likes or a comment every now and then, you need to assess if your content strategy is one that's encouraging a conversation and community, or if you are just creating to create without taking that pause. And if you're having trouble figuring out the community aspect of it, maybe take some time to scale back a little bit of the post-production aspect and do some research on community and community growth and engagement. It's something I'm very interested in, especially in 2023. I think micro communities are going to become more and more popular and important as the web landscape shifts, especially with what we, like you said earlier, both of you, about Twitter changing and Facebook being what it is. I think there's a lot of digital saturation in the content world out there, and there's going to be people that really don't feel like looking through all of that. They just want to get their good stuff and talk to a couple people and log off for the day, kind of a thing. So I guess my last question for you both. This is just I'm just going to throw one out there because we are by a water cooler. It is supposed to be fun. We're virtually too. If you could make a community for any podcaster, someone was like, "Hey, just do whatever you want. Make my community, make it a thing." Who would you do it for? And obviously, you'd be a part of it then too if you did that.
Ooh, never been asked that question. A very creative question, Rita, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Let's see. So I love the podcast Song Exploder by Rishikesh Hirway, where he like takes apart a song, talks to the artist, and like
Ooh.
they go into the details of why did I select this particular. I'm not a music person, but why did I select this particular like, drum combo with the vocals? How did I find the inspiration for the lyrics and blah blah blah?
Yeah.
I think a community for that would be very cool.
I would love that. I would be part of that community tomorrow because I am kind of a music person. I'm not like amazing at it, but I like to tinker with the piano and sing parodies every now and then. That's so cool. Okay, Deedee, you're a consumer of podcast content. You gotta tell me.
Oh my God, the hard thing is picking one. Like it's not like nothing is coming to mind. I'm like, well, this or that or that.
I could do all of them. Everyone, I want to help all of you. That's the point, Rita.
Yeah, exactly. Oh goodness, I think probably maybe this is really top of mind because the elections just occurred, but I'm not sure if anybody listening follows Sharon Says So. Her podcast she just renamed to Here's Where It Gets Interesting, and I really like her community that she's built. She could give them name Governors because it's just like the only political community that is not charged and it actually energizes me versus drains me. And so I am a member of her version of community, which she's got like a book club and all these different things, but I would probably pass out if she contacted us and said,
"You're like, let's do it, Sharon."
Yeah. I might need her not to because I might literally die. But
like, we don't want that, Deedee. I don't actually want you to really die. That's hilarious. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for taking time out of your day to come speak to little old Rita by the water cooler. I'm not Southern. Don't know where this is coming from. It's a Friday afternoon. We don't take ourselves too seriously here. But if any of you like what you heard, like we said a little bit ago, go to clever.com. Sorry, I lied. Clever.fm/demo to see the tool in action if you're a podcaster and you want to grow your community. And if you want to hit up Deedee and Survy, they are on LinkedIn, but if you want to contact them in another place, please feel free, Deedee and Survy, to provide your information so that they may do so.
Yes, we are on all outlets. But the best way if you want to chat is on clever.fm in the top corner. There's a button that says schedule a chat that goes right to our calendars. So we're there. But if that's too much, then just find us on LinkedIn and we love to chat.
Yeah, instead of giving out all of my social handles, one of the things you should do as a community manager is give one call to action. So go to our website. That's it. There's enough to do from there onwards.
Drop the mic there with the value. All right. So on that note, the action has been called. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I shall provide no more calls to action. Because that'll be too much. I thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day, everyone listening. Have a happy Friday and a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
For listening.